Hi, my name's Phil Gardner and welcome to Fun with Boxes. Today I'm taking a look at the big box post-apocalyptic miniature game Ruination, designed by Travis R. Chance and published by Kolossal Games. Ruination is a 2 to 4 player area control game set in a post-apocalyptic world. Using an innovative action system, players will gather resources to acquire advantages from the wreckage of the world, bolster their armies with powerful exiles, and march across the Wasteland to war. Only the strongest horde will rule besides the Khan in this new world. Ready yourself for battle, win and lead your people onward, or die and be forgotten. Well, that sounds all very dramatic, doesn't it? But before we march across the wastelands, let's take a Fun with Boxes look at what you get in this post-apocalyptic battler. Ruination is a game of post-apocalyptic conquest, pure and simple, and only the strongest will indeed survive. So be prepared to battle and battle and battle some more. The big box size and rules could lead you to believe that this is a complex area control dudes on a map game, and you would be forgiven for thinking so. However, at its core, it really is quite straightforward. All you do on your turn is choose one of 3 available action cards and resolve it. Check for any resulting battles, resolve them, and then finally check your army limits to ensure that each territory only contains a maximum of 6 units. And that's it. It's the next player's turn, and rinse and repeat. Rather than follow the rulebook structure with its detailed pages of setup, key concepts and card anatomies, I will quickly show you how to set up the game and then go through how a turn is played and how the battle system works, and this should give you a firm grounding on how the game flows. I will then cover everything else following this. Just for you to be aware, I do not have enough subscribers to be able to activate chapter stops on the screen. But if you check out the description below, you will be able to access all the chapter stops from there and jump to any section of the video you wish to see. Okay, setup. Pop the game board onto the center of your table. Separate the action cards by type into 3 stacks and shuffle and place them face up onto the matching board areas like this. Separate and shuffle the advantage cards again into 3 stacks and place these also face up onto the matching board game areas, and also deal 1 card from each next to its deck so that you will have 2 visible cards for each deck. Shuffle the exile deck and place that face up onto its matching area of the game board and draw 2 cards and place them face up next to the deck. Next, take the bastion tokens and place 1 in each of the 4 corners of the board, place 2 in the citadel at the center of the board, and then place 2 tokens onto the favor track onto the 4th and 8th spaces. Place the battle board near the game board with the Nomad battle markers on the starting spaces, and finally place Khan's Fury token at the top of the Fury track. Each player grabs a horde board and collects the matching coloured components: 8 grunt miniatures, 3 brute miniatures, and 3 raider miniatures. You then take 5 horde tokens and a set of 4 resource tracker. And then, to get ready for your first game, you shuffle the starting bonus tiles face down and deal 2 to each player. Each player will choose 1 to keep face down for its bonuses, and the other tile is then revealed by all players, and the player with the highest numbered tile will take the first player standee and remain the first player for the whole of the game. Then, in revealed tile number order, each player does the following. Choose an unoccupied territory containing a single bastion and recruit 1 grunt into that territory and into the adjacent territories. Gain 1 resource type as shown on the starting territory. Players then reveal their face down bonus tiles and gain the indicated bonus. And also everyone gains 1 blessing token. Once all players have completed these steps, return all starting bonus tiles to the game box and add 1 face down nomad token to each territory without any miniatures, returning any remaining back to the game box. And everything is now set up and you are ready to start playing. Starting player first and then proceeding clockwise around the table, keeping this order for the rest of the game. As in gameplay, starting with the first player, each player performs these 3 steps. You choose and resolve an action card, you resolve any resultant battles, and finally check your army limits. And you do this until Khan's Fury is invoked, where you follow the steps on the game board and perform 1 final full round, and the player with the most points is the winner. So let's take a look at each of these steps in order, starting with choosing and resolving an action card. There are 3 face-up action decks on the game board: Scavenge, Move and Recruit. The player chooses the top card from one of these decks and then resolves that card in any order they wish, performing the card's main action, gaining favour or glory, and gaining any bonus actions. Once they have completed this, they place the card into a face-down discard pile above the chosen card. If the last card of the deck has been discarded, this triggers Khan's Fury, and the discard pile is shuffled and replaced face up to reform the action deck. I will take a look first at the main actions you can take, and then following this cover what additional benefits a card may give you, such as glory, favour and the bonuses. Actions: Scavenge. This has 2 steps. First, gather resources, and then if the player wishes to, they may spend resources to acquire 1 advantage card. Gathering resources. You have 2 options here. Either choose 1 territory you have miniatures in and gain resources of that territory's type equal to the number of miniatures, or you gain 1 resource from each territory where you have 1 or more miniatures. Acquiring an advantage card. The cost in resources is shown on the bottom left-hand side of the advantage card. Advantage cards provide you with ongoing effects listed in black and also red text tactics that can be used in battles. When you acquire an advantage card, you place this on a slot on your horde board, paying any additional cost as shown. If all slots are full, you may discard the current card to its discard pile and place the new card in its place without having to pay any additional costs. Move. Either the player chooses 1 territory with miniatures in and may move any number of units from that territory into any number of adjacent territories, or they choose 1 territory and move any number of their units adjacent into that territory. If units are moved into a territory belonging to another player or containing a nomad token, this will trigger a battle in the resolve battle phase of the player turn. Note, you can move across the wasteland, but you must pay 1 resource or inflict 1 casualty to the units moving across the wasteland by returning 1 unit to their reserve. Just a quick note about adjacency. Any territory that shares a border with the wasteland is considered to be adjacent to each other. The only territories that are not adjacent to all other territories are the 4 corner territories, who are only adjacent to the 2 territories next to it, and also the central Khan region with the citadel at its centre, that is only adjacent to the 2 territories next to it. All other territories are considered to be adjacent. Recruit. Taking this action, the player gains 3 recruit points to add units to the board. Additionally, it allows them to spend resources to acquire 1 exile card. Recruiting units cost. Grunts, which have the circle bases, cost 1 recruit point. Brutes, which have a hexagon base, and raiders, which have a triangular base, cost 2 recruit points. Units can only be recruited to a territory where they have units or a territory in their home region, so long as there are no enemy units there. If a player has no units on the board and their home region territories are occupied by other players, they may recruit to any territory, even enemy-occupied territories. After you have recruited, you may pay resources to acquire an exile card by paying the resource cost as shown on the left-hand side of the card. If it has a bonus at the bottom of the card, you resolve this immediately. You will use the icons on the card during battles. After you acquire an exile, add this to a territory you control or a territory in your homeland not controlled by another player. Then refill the empty card space with the top card of the exile deck. Look after your exiles. Any suffering casualties are permanently removed from the game. So let's do a quick recap on choosing and resolving an action card. You can scavenge to gain resources and then spend them to acquire an advantage card. You can move units on the board or recruit units and then spend resources to acquire an exile card. But the action cards may allow you to take additional actions, give you bonuses, or allow you to move up on the glory or favour tracks. The cards will have iconography or details of what you can do as well as the main action. The top left of the card always shows you what the main action of the card is: scavenge, move, or recruit. If there's a banner here, then move up on the relevant track as indicated. And at the bottom of the card will be a bonus action you can take. You can perform any of these actions in any order. So you could, for example, take the bonus action, then move up a track, and then take the main action. The choice is yours. And now onto the core part of the game, resolving battles. There are something like 10 pages of the rulebook covering how to perform a battle, along with a very detailed example. Do not be daunted or put off by this. After a few battles, you will be doing them without too much thinking at all. Let's take a look at the process. After a player has performed their action card for their turn, they must resolve any resultant battles which will occur in any territory where they have units and there are enemy units or nomads present in that territory. These are called contested territories. Each contested territory must be selected and resolved in the order chosen by the active player that turn. Let's break this down with an example, and I will use the example that is in the rulebook. First, we select a contested territory. Here, Mike has moved 2 grunts, a brute and an exile into a territory controlled by Laura, who has 2 grunts, 3 brutes and a raider, which now makes this a contested territory, which we will have to select at the end of Mike's turn to battle. The first thing we need to do is calculate the strength and any casualties. Mike has 2 grunts which provide 1 strength each, and a brute which adds 2 strength, making a total so far of 4 points. Looking at the card for his exile, we see that this has 2 strength, so Mike's combined strength is 6 with no casualties. Laura also has 2 grunts giving 2 strength, and 3 brutes providing 2 strength points each. These units provide a total of 8 points, but Laura also has a raider which adds an extra strength and a casualty. So her total is 9 strength and 1 casualty. We record this on the battle track, with Laura ahead of Mike at the moment. The player's horde board shows how much strength each unit has and if they inflict any casualties, as well as how many recruit points it takes to recruit them. Next, we check for starting bonuses players may have from cards that they have in play. Mike has the War Gear Advantage card on his horde board that gives him 1 strength at the start of a battle. But if there are bastions present, this is a +2 strength instead. Laura does not have any starting bonuses, so Mike's strength rises to 8, and Laura remains in the lead with 9. Now we determine the battle dice players will roll. A player gets 1 die for each type of unit in the battle: grunt, brute, raider, or exile. Any dice shown on any exile cards for exiles included in the battle, and any dice listed on advantage cards players may have. Finally, the player who has advanced further on the favour track gains the favour die. And if this is tied, no one takes the favour die. So knowing this, we can see that Mike has 3 dice for his 3 different units: the grunt, the brute, and his exile units, plus his exile provides an additional die, giving him a total of 4 battle dice to roll. Laura also has 3 dice for her 3 different units: her grunt, her brute, and her raider units. And as she is further along the favour track than Mike is, she gets the favour die too. Plus, Laura has the Death Worm Advantage card on her board, and this provides her with the Death Worm die to roll in the battle too. Now on to the cool part, rolling those battle dice and seeing how to use them to help us get the best advantage in the battle. Both players roll their dice. Mike has rolled 2 strength, a special result, but 2 blanks. Laura has also rolled 2 strength and a special, 1 blank, a casualty and 2 blessings. Starting with the attacker, each player alternates taking battle actions until both players have passed. Before players take each of their battle actions, if they have any blessing tokens, they may use these to re-roll some or even all of their currently unassigned dice. Or even they could choose the side of 1 die by using 3 blessing tokens. In this example, neither Mike nor Laura start with any blessing tokens. Mike's first action is to use his strength die to add 2 to his strength, taking him to 10 points. Laura follows next and also uses her die to add 2 strength, taking her to 11, still just ahead. Mike now assigns his special die result to a tactic space on his horde board, beneath his war gear card, and this gives him +1 strength from the board and 2 blessing tokens from the war gear card. He is now also on 11 strength. Laura now uses her favourite die and also receives 2 blessing tokens. And Mike now chooses one of his blessing tokens and re-rolls one of his blank dice and gets a 2 strength result, taking him into the lead with 13 strength. Laura decides to use both her blessing tokens and re-rolls all her unassigned dice, getting another blank, another casualty and a 2 strength result. She decides to use the strength die and increases her strength to 13, matching Mike's. Mike then spends his last blessing token to re-roll his remaining battle die that had the blank result, and this time gets a strength result, increasing his strength to 15. Laura uses her deathworm die to increase her casualties to 2. Mike then passes, as he has no more dice, and then Laura passes too, as her only remaining die was a blank one. This is a brilliant example of just how fantastic the combat mechanics are to resolve in this game, ebbing and flowing and changing from each battle die result to the next. This is truly satisfying and often can result in unexpected outcomes. Now we determine the result of the combat. As we can see, Mike had the most strength with 15 points compared to Laura's 13 and is the winner of the battle. As Mike won the battle, he increases his casualties by 1, raising his total to 1 overall. And because Mike is the current player and the winner of the battle, he gets victory points equal to the number of defender units, so he gets 6 victory points. But Mike has suffered 2 casualties and so has to return 2 of his units to his reserve, and he chooses 2 of his grunts. Laura gains 1 blessing token for her remaining blank die, but has to return 1 unit to her reserve due to the 1 casualty Mike has inflicted at the end. And she too chooses to return a grunt to her reserve. Finally, Laura will need to retreat to an adjacent territory that she controls or is unoccupied. If there were any other contested territories, one of these now would be selected and another battle conducted until there were no more remaining contested territories. Each territory can only have at most 6 units, so in player turn order, each player checks and removes any excess units from the board to their reserve. Then play continues to the next player. Now that you know how a player's turn and battles work, let's just go back through and cover some general core concepts. Firstly, the map. This is split into 5 distinct regions, with each region having a cluster of 3 territories, separated from other regions by the Wasteland. The 15 outlined portions of the board are the territories, and a player controls a territory if only their units are present in that territory. The Wasteland separates regions and cannot be occupied, and to pass over the Wasteland you need to pay a resource or remove one of the units passing over the Wasteland. A player's home region is the region where they started the game. Bastions. 6 begin on the map, but more will be added during the game and are important for certain scoring intervals and for some action cards. If you control a bastion's territory, you control the bastion. And a territory may have more than 1 bastion, and once all bastion tokens are placed on the board, you cannot place any more. Casualties. Any casualties inflicted on exile units or nomad counters removes them completely from the game. Resources. You track these on your horde board, and the most of any resource a player may hold is 6. Anything in excess will provide them with 1 victory point and 1 blessing. Favour, glory and blessings. The favour track will grant players with victory points as well as a bastion to the player that first reaches them. Also, in each battle, the player furthest ahead on this track will gain a favour die to use in that battle. The glory track provides the opportunity to bolster home territories with units, acquire a free exile, and score victory points for each bastion in territories where they have units. If you were ever to advance past the 10th space on these tracks, you gain 1 victory point and a blessing for each space you would advance past 10. And finally, the blessing tokens, which can be used during battles. You can spend 1 to re-roll 1 die, or spend 2 to re-roll any number of dice. Or you can spend 3 to set 1 die to any one result. Nomads. Nomad tokens represent the wayward, ruthless scavengers who lie in wait eager to ambush travellers. There are different types of nomads, each with their own strength, battle dice and rewards. And you will battle nomads in a very similar manner as you would battling other players. First, you reveal the nomad token to see what reward, strength and battle dice it has. Then determine starting strength and record this on the battle board using the nomad strength and casualty tokens. The player then resolves any start of battle bonuses, and then we determine battle dice as normal, though the current player will always add the favour die to their dice pool. The player to the right of the current player will roll the dice for the nomads, and the dice are rolled, but only the current player takes the battle dice actions, with the nomad considering to have been passed. After the current player passes, if the nomads rolled any strength, this is added to their strength score, and then the winner is determined. If the current player wins, they gain 1 blessing token for each blank die, they gain control of the contested territory, gain 1 victory point in addition to the reward shown on the Nomads token, and finally the Nomad token is removed from the game. However, if the current player loses, they get 1 blessing token for each blank die, advance the Nomad casualty track by 1 on the battle board, then the current player has to remove units equal to the casualty number. Next, compare the current player's casualty level to any special die results the Nomads rolled. If the current player's casualty exceeds the number of special results the Nomads rolled, then the Nomad token is removed from play. Otherwise, it remains on the board. The current player then retreats to an adjacent territory they control or an unoccupied one. If they cannot, they retreat to a territory in their home region, and if they are unable to do this, then they retreat to any unoccupied territory. And if this is not possible, then they return to the player's reserve. End of game. There are 3 ways to trigger Khan's Fury and the end of the game. A player advances to the 10th space on the favour or glory track, or a player reaches or exceeds 30 victory points, or finally a player discards the last card in an action deck. If any of these things happen, use the Khan Fury tracker on the game board by moving the marker along the track and following the instructions. First, each player gets 2 victory points for each bastion they control. Then you finish the current round, which ends when the player seated to the right of the starting player finishes their turn. Then play 1 further final round for all players, and then proceed to the final scoring. Final scoring. Players score 2 victory points per bastion, score any end game victory points printed on cards, score 1 point for every resource of which they have 4 or more, and score 1 victory point for every 2 blessing tokens they have. And the player with the most points wins. In a tie, the player with the most bastions will win. And if still tied, the player with the most territories will win. And if there are any further ties, well, sadly, Khan's really not happy, and he executes all players. You could even say that that would be the wrath of Khan. I'm sorry. I just had to. Well, there you have it. I hope that helps you for when you get to play a game of Ruination, or helps you to get a feel for how the game plays and to see if it's a fit for you and your gaming group or family or friends. We were lucky enough to pick this up second hand from a lovely couple at Aircon West in Manchester last December, and I've only just recently played it with 3 players, and it was fantastic. I know there are a number of steps to battles, but it's actually quite quick to resolve once you know what you're doing. And like I said, the back page of the rulebook has you covered for everything you need to know to play the game, without having to constantly refer to the rulebook as a whole. In fact, Ruination has one of the best combat mechanics I have played in a game for a long time. And this is good news, as you will be fighting a lot in this game. It's fresh, engaging, exciting, and while you think you know what the result will be, anything can happen before the final outcome, and things can change quite dramatically. It is, in short, a superb dudes on a map game, and one I would highly recommend. And ironically, just as I was finishing this script, I noticed that the game is returning to Kickstarter in a few days' time, the end of January 2024. I am super excited by this, as I will definitely be wanting to pick up the expansions and anything else they have on offer in addition to the base game we have. After playing this game and enjoying it so much, I'm definitely all in on any extra goodies to be had. If this sort of game appeals to you, then you're going to be in for a treat. And if you fancy the look of it after seeing how to play, then again, you will be in for a treat. 2 fun with boxes thumbs up for this great game. One that I can't wait to play again. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please consider clicking that like button and even subscribing to see some more Fun with Boxes videos. That would be awesome. Thanks for watching, and as always, please take care. Bye for now.